Today is a day about doing all things to make my garden that much more awesome for this upcoming growing season. We are going to pot up some bare root flowers, some more like gorgeous beauties that you've seen me do before, and I'm adding even more into the garden. I want to show you my favorite fertilizer that I use in every single garden bed in my whole entire yard. Early spring is the time to do that, and we're probably going to do a little bit of cleanup along the way just to get everything looking in tip-top shape. Hi you guys, this is Nicole from My Carolina Garden. My garden is located in growing zone 8B and I am in southeastern North Carolina. It has been so incredibly windy last night and so far this morning. Oh my goodness. So I wanted to show you some of the bare root plants that had already started, and then I'm going to show you the new ones that I'm adding to the mix. About 4 weeks ago, I started these dahlias. These are the Dahlia Tahiti Sunrise, which is this gorgeous baby. These dahlias, 2 bulbs for $5.42. Okay, if I were to buy one of these plants as an actual plant instead of a bulb or a bare root or whatever, it would probably cost me $15 to $20. I don't even know, because this one's a little fancy. It probably is on the $20 realm. So I'm making 2 plants for myself from this little tuber packet. So I bought another set of these plus some other colorful goodies. But just to give you a little update on some of the other tubers, this was the Canna Picasso, which is this one. So this is what the Canna is looking like, just showing a little bit of growth. I am not going to plant any of these out into the landscape until my last average frost date has passed, which for me here in zone 8B is April 15th. Now this is the Canna Wyoming, and I don't have its picture. Oh wait, yes I do. Yes I do. This one. So it's the dark colored foliage and the orange flowers. So I have a couple of canna lilies and I have a couple of dahlias here. But then of course I was seeing how beautifully these are all sprouting up, and I had to go buy myself some more bulbs. I've mentioned before, I am a person who loves saturated color. So I tend to go with things that are going to be very showy in the garden. So these are the dahlias that I have. So more of the Tahiti Sunrise, like I said, but look at this gorgeous one. This is Dahlia Motto. Oh my gosh. So these are summer to fall bloomers. Now, typically dahlias could be, depending on what variety we're talking about, hardy to zones 8 or 9. Because I'm zone 8B, I am like right on the line of where dahlias are going to come back as perennial. But I take the chance because I have better than 50% success rate. So my very worst case scenario is something this gorgeous would only be an annual for me. But like I said, my success rate has been pretty good so far. So it is worth it to me to have this for at least this entire year, and then we're going to take a chance and hope that it comes back next year. So besides my dahlia bulb, same, $5.42 for 2. I had to get this daylily. This is blackberries and cream. Now I think that a lot of times flower marketers do so awesome naming the flowers that it makes you want it just based on the name alone. Blackberries and cream, yes please. So daylily's also going to be a summer bloomer. Again, none of these things are going into the ground right now. We are just potting up the roots for now. And then lastly, this is not something I've ever grown before, but you always see it in flower arrangements. Blue sea holly. So the blue sea holly just has a unique look. The purple color is awesome. It's pollinator friendly and it's perennial. So this is definitely going to be a great new addition to the garden this year. So this one wants full sun. Everything that I have here really wants sun. And the deal on all of the roots is I am just going to barely cover them with soil. So I'm sticking them in the pots. I'm going to look for any eyes that are shooting up, because that's where the new growth will start from, and then just barely covering it over with some soil. I am leaving everything protected right now in the greenhouse, but that's just because I don't want to shock anything by having 40-degree nights or anything like that. We're starting with the blue sea holly first, and I'm supposed to have 3 roots in here, so let's see what I have. Looks like I do in fact have 3. I just want to be a little delicate about untangling them. And it looks like where the new growth was starting to come out, it's pretty wet. 1, 2, 3. Now this one seems to have gotten the bulk of the root system, but I'm just going to leave it just like that anyway. This one is very clear because the new growth is starting up here, so I'm actually going to put this down this way. And I'm just going to cover up all the little roots down at the bottom, leaving this stem and the new growth peeking out at the top. Daylilies, 2 roots for the daylilies. So since I have 2 square pots that are actually different from the other ones, we're going to put the daylilies in there. So we got 2 beautiful sets of daylily roots here. Here comes Dahlia Tahiti Sunrise. Looking for any eyes on the dahlia tubers. I do not see any on that one. Or on this one. So we are going to do what looks like it would be root growth down and put soil gently all around it. I'm going to do the same thing on this. So we have a couple of eyes right at the top of this one. So we're in the front yard and we have some trimming back to do and some cleaning up before I show you the fertilizer I'm going to use and how I spread it around. Ornamental grasses like this one really should be cut back down about 6 inches off the ground. I hadn't yet done this, and now I can see all of my green shoots are starting fresh from the ground. So I really want to clean up the brown so I can make way for the green. I'm just using scissors because I find it easy to do that way. I lied. I am switching over to a power tool because I have 4 of these to do and it's just taking too long. So work smarter and not harder, right? I also want to clean up the dead growth from things like the red cordyline, because none of this is going to matter. New growth will take place on its own, and this is just dead foliage. If any of these little branches offers me resistance, I'm leaving it alone because I'm leaving the actual stalks or stems in the ground, and I'm just taking off what's clearly loose, dead, and decomposing at the ends. More daylily stuff. So over here I have some Artemisia and I have some Dianthus. I actually have two of the Artemisia plants, and you can see there's a lot of dead growth on here and some dead foliage that I want to cut off to promote a beautiful mounding perennial right here. Now the Dianthus is showing some fresh green growth right now, but it's these other parts that are dead and brown that I'm going to cut off on this as well. But you can see some of this green mixed in here. This is not part of the Artemisia. In fact, this is the primrose, probably the twilight primrose that is an aggressive self-seeder. We've talked about it in the past, and I've kind of said if you have space for it to spread out, it's beautiful. It makes your spring flower bed look wonderful with tons and tons of flowers in it. However, it can be considered invasive in some places, and that is just something to watch out for. Now, looking from the front side of the garden, all of this dead growth is blanket flowers. So the blanket flower stems, any kind of old foliage can all be cut back. I just have to be careful on those that I don't just yank it out because it does have roots attached to the bottom. Now, some of these green tufts you can see is new blanket flower seeds that have already found their way into the ground to germinate. Nevertheless, it's all of this dead stuff that I really want to get up before I put the fertilizer down. It is fertilizing time. So the fertilizer that I use every spring, early spring, is this plant tone. It is an all-purpose plant food, and it is organic. Now, it's granular. It smells stinky. I don't just wear my regular gardening gloves. I wear these disposable gloves because I don't want my gardening gloves to even have a whiff of this scent later, even after they're washed. So this is the easiest thing ever. I sprinkle it everywhere, every single flower bed, around plants, trees, whatever. Let me show you what it looks like. Kind of like cat litter. And I sprinkle, 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 sprinkle throughout. I don't measure. I don't do anything particular. I sprinkle, I sprinkle, I sprinkle. Now, I may not be tossing huge handfuls, first of all, because it's dusty and I don't need the dust to blow everywhere. Secondly, today is a very, very windy day. So I want to make sure that the fertilizer actually stays in the flower bed, isn't coming out onto the grass, because the grass gets its own separate kind of fertilizer. So this plant tone is the fertilizer I use every spring in every single flower bed. It does not matter to me if every plant in the bed is dormant or if I'm showing life or whatever it is. March time of year is when I use this granulated fertilizer, and people do ask me, so we're just taking note of that now, because then during the gardening season I just use a water soluble fertilizer when I'm watering. So here we go. This actually is a wonderful flower bed to show you first, because this one has already been updated, so it is cleared out. So I don't have any weeds to contend with. I don't have any dead foliage or growth to contend with. And yes, all of these clothes that I'm wearing are going to end up in the wash when I'm done. Now, in the case of this flower bed here, I already have new mulch on it because these are fresh plantings. In other spots in my other flower beds, I don't have the fresh mulch yet, so the fertilizer will actually be lower. So I might muss this up a little bit just to make sure the granules start to go beneath the mulch surface in this flower bed specifically. Other than that, no biggie, no muss, no fuss, just spread it around as you see fit. All things considered, a lot really got accomplished today. Some bare roots got planted up so I can have some new beautiful things showing up in the garden. Some garden cleanup happened and fertilizing happened. So we are almost going to be ready to start doing a front yard garden tour for you. Thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful. Definitely keep that fertilizer in mind if you're looking for something for your own garden. And until next time, happy planting.